Discover the amazing piano piece that changed everything for one billionaire. Hearts were touched. Jake Greene was just a humble mechanic in a small Midwestern town, struggling to make ends meet for himself and his 7-year-old daughter, Lily. Every night, the weight of bills and despair pressed against his chest, leaving him gasping for hope. Yet, in the darkest corners of their modest home, a grand secret lingered. In those quiet moments after grease-stained hands washed clean, he played his piano. With each note, memories of long-forgotten dreams swirled. Notes that spoke of laughter, love, and a yearning for something more filled the air. In those passages, Jake came alive. Lily, with bright eyes and an infectious smile, listened from her bedroom, captivated. She dreamed of her father serenading the town one day. As their lives unfolded, Lily counted down to her birthday, each day bursting with hope that she'd finally get to see Jake's hidden talent shine. Little did they both know, the stakes were climbing. The specter of a corporate takeover loomed over their town, threatening to tear apart the very fabric of their community. A wealthy billionaire named Henry was on his way, ready to buy up the whole block, tossing aside workers like scrap metal. Yet, the days bled together, and Jake focused on the dripping oil, clinking tools, and reassuring smiles of loyal customers. When the tension of the approaching takeover hung in the air like a thunderstorm ready to break, Jake poured his heart into a melody. His unspoken frustrations danced across the keys. Each note carried the weight of a father's love and the bittersweet ache of dreams unfulfilled. Just as you felt the pressure building, Lily burst into the garage. "Daddy! You have to play at the charity event next week. Everyone will be there. Even Mr. Henry." Her excitement bubbled over like a pot on the stove. Jake felt panic rise within him. Sharing his music made him feel vulnerable, like walking barefoot on broken glass. "I don't know, Lily. What if they don't like it?" The look on her face, a mix of belief and anticipation, pierced his heart. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the day of the charity event approached, the entire town buzzed with excitement for Jake. But the clouds of dread hovered closer, as whispers of layoffs and regrets filled the air. Jake could feel all eyes on him. How could he play in front of a billionaire who's too busy counting riches? But each time he sat at that worn piano, Lily's hopes echoed in the air. The event was just around the corner, and tensions escalated. With everything reaching a fever pitch, Jake half believed he might not even have a shop to return to. But he had to wonder, would courage rise above ingratitude? Would Henry step forward, changing the course of dreams forever? And as the piano keys awaited his touch, Jake knew one thing: everything was about to change. All it took was a single heartbeat, a single note, to unravel the very fabric of what they thought they knew. Would the melody finally break through, or would fear silence his soul? The night of the charity event arrived, draping the town in a veil of anticipation. Strings of twinkling lights illuminated the town square, casting a warm glow over the gathering crowd. Jake stood just behind the stage, his heart pounding like a drum. The lively chatter and laughter around him felt both exhilarating and suffocating. He rubbed the smooth surface of the piano, the cool wood grounding him against the heat of his nerves. "Daddy, you'll be great." Lily's voice chimed in, full of the innocent assurance only a child could muster. She clutched a colorful banner, a makeshift gift from her classmates that read, "Go, Dad," in crayon-drawn letters. Her excitement made his heart swell, yet the shadow of his fears twisted inside. "Thanks, kiddo," he replied, forcing a smile. But doubt loomed over him, a thick fog that transformed excitement into dread. What if he played and fell flat? What if the crowd, looking for hope and entertainment, was met with failure instead? The program began, the mayor addressing the crowd with warm words, talking about community and resilience. Jake could hear snippets, yet the words felt distant, like echoes from another world. All he could focus on were the glimmering lights reflecting off the polished piano keys. Every time the spotlight shifted toward him, his heart raced a bit faster. Finally, the moment approached. The announcer's voice cut through the air. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special treat. Put your hands together for local mechanic and talented musician, Jake Greene. The crowd clapped, encouragement and expectation blending into a wave that crashed against Jake's soul. Don't think about the crowd, he whispered to himself, just think about the music. He took a deep breath, squeezing Lily's hand before stepping onto the stage, the warmth of the lights washing over him and making him squint. As he sat down, a hush spread over the audience. The silence was deafening, an expectant weight pressing down. A whirlwind of doubt swirled in his mind. How could he possibly perform for a billionaire whose greed could destroy his life? Yet the image of Lily's shining eyes pushed him forward. He placed his hands over the keys, hesitation battling the urging need to play. With one firm decision, he let his fingers glide across the surface, searching for the melody he had crafted so tenderly in those quiet nights. The first notes rang out like a clarion call, bold and piercing the silence that surrounded him. It was more than just a song, it was a story, the story of his life, his struggles, and his love for Lily. As the music swelled, he saw faces light up, some swaying gently, others closing their eyes to let the melody paint pictures in their minds. Each note released something within him. Fear morphed into passion, and the pain of uncertainty transformed into a fleeting joy. But just as he reached the crescendo, a disturbance erupted at the edge of the crowd. Murmurs grew into shouts, and Jake's fingers faltered. Everything crashed around him like glass shattering on a hard floor. What's happening? He wondered, panic seeping into his chest. The song that had brought him peace suddenly turned into chaos. He looked to the side and saw a group of people, their expressions twisted in anger and despair. Then, he caught sight of Henry Dark Suit, cold smirk stepping into the fray. Was he here to silence the cries for help? With every ounce of resolve within him, Jake knew the stakes had just escalated. Would he finish his song, or would he be pulled into the whirlwind of anger and indignation surrounding him? In that moment, everything shifted, his melody, his fears, and the future of his community hung by a thread. Would the music save them, or would silence wash over the town for good? Jake's fingers stilled over the keys, caught in the grip of uncertainty. The music hung in the air, suspended like a breath held too long. He peered out from the stage, where Lily stood clutching her colorful banner, a beacon of hope amidst the encroaching chaos. The shouting intensified, echoing through the square as more voices joined the fray. Jake's heart raced, he recognized the passion in the crowd's anger. They were fighting for something greater against injustice, against the very man who had taken away so much from them. Henry's smug expression sent a chill down Jake's spine. The wealthy businessman had come to the event, not as a benefactor, but as a hawk, ready to swoop down and snuff out any signs of rebellion. Jake's mind raced. This was not just a performance anymore, it was a stand. He inhaled deeply, recalling the lyrics he'd penned during lonely nights amidst grease and gears. Each note was a testament to the struggles they faced, a reminder of dreams that couldn't be crushed by wealth or power. The crowd's unrest was palpable, voices rose, accusations hurled like lightning bolts. "This is our town," one shouted, splintering the tension that had coiled around Jake. But instead of backing down, their energy surged through him. He needed to bring them back to the music, back to the reason they had come together, a sense of community, unity, hope. With renewed determination, he let himself dive into the melody, pulling from his heart to rise above the discord. The sound poured forth, a blend of resistance and resilience, weaving in and out of the chaos surrounding him. The strong chords that followed were like fingers gripping the essence of their fight, reverberating with stories of those who had been silenced. And slowly, amid the upheaval, something miraculous happened. The crowd's shouts began to soften, the anger turning to curiosity, then to acceptance. People started to sway, drawn in by the music that resonated with their very souls. "Jake, keep going!" Lily shouted, her voice bright against the deepening night. The love swelling between them was a raw force, urging him forward, bright as any spotlight. He caught glimpses of the townsfolk, their faces shifting, absorbing the melody, feeling it carve pathways to their hearts. Jake's fingers danced faster now, gaining strength and confidence. He blended in a chorus of hope into the notes, every chord echoing the dreams of the community, hopes drawn from decades of struggle. Then, as the finale approached, he shifted into a sprightly rhythm taking the crowd by storm. The scattered voices began to harmonize, clapping along with the beat, transcending their fears, their doubt. The music was now one with them, a spirit woven into the fabric of their collective identity. Yet, just as he was taking it home, ready to seal the moment with a grand flourish, Jake caught sight of Henry storming up the steps to the stage. The businessman was not about to let this cathartic moment continue. "Stop this. You're embarrassing yourself," Henry bellowed, hostility dripping from every word. Jake's heart sank as the crowd halted, the music slipping from his grasp. Was this where it ended? Would the darkness return to swallow the light they created together? In that split second, Jake realized he had to choose: stand up and face Henry, or let the moment dissolve into nothingness. What would he do next? Would he let the music speak, or would he let fear silence his voice? Jake's heart thundered in his chest. The world around him blurred as he faced Henry, the smug businessman whose power had suffocated so many dreams. The anger in the air was thick, but it was overshadowed by a spark of hope that had ignited in the crowd. He could feel their collective spirit pressing against him, encouraging him to push back. "Embarrassing?" he shouted back, his voice steady despite the tremor in his stomach. "No, what's embarrassing is pretending we don't matter. We do matter." For a moment, time stood still. The crowd held its breath, and it felt like the entire world narrowed down to just him and Henry. The businessman sneered, but if Jake stared hard enough into Henry's eyes, he could see a flicker of uncertainty. It was a crack in the armor, a tiny, glimmering chance for change. With that flicker, the music began to rise again, almost as if it had a life of its own. Jake's fingers, guided by instinct, found the keys with newfound energy. He poured every ounce of passion into the chords, bending the melody to speak directly to the heart of the crowd. The notes were sharp and clear, a bold defiance against the shadow of Henry's wealth. "Look around," Jake called out, his voice soaring above the music. "This is our moment. We're more than just numbers on a ledger or pawns in a rich man's game. We have strength, we have courage, and tonight, we have each other." Lily's eyes sparkled in the twilight as she stepped forward, the colorful banner in her grasp becoming a rallying point for the crowd. Other voices joined in, people taking up the lyrics Jake sang, their unity creating a powerful chorus. With every note, they told their story, the loss, the pain, but above all, their unbreakable spirit. As he played, Jake could feel the tension in the air begin to unravel. The crowd swayed, a mass of bodies moving as one, driven by the belief that they could change the narrative that had been imposed on their lives. Together, they raised their voices, drowning out Henry's last desperate attempts to reclaim control. There was magic in that moment, a sense of freedom that hadn't existed before. But Henry, red-faced and furious, was not backing down. He lunged forward, desperate to crush this surge of emotion. "You think this makes you strong?" he scoffed, eyes narrowing. "You'll regret this." Jake locked eyes with him, a fire burning within. "No, Henry. We won't regret standing up for what's right. If you want to silence us, you'll have to be louder than our music." With that, he released a surge in the melody, the familiar chord swelling into a crescendo that sent vibrational energy through the crowd. The rhythm bounced off the buildings surrounding them, a sonic wave of hope washing over everything. Laughter, cheers, and claps erupted. For the first time, Jake smiled, something fierce and alive. He wasn't just playing music, he was weaving hearts together, kindling a spark within his community that couldn't be snuffed out easily. But just as the crowd swelled in triumph, a shocking sound pierced through the night, the ominous crack of a heavy boot stomping onto the stage. Henry was not done yet. He advanced, fists clenched, eyes blazing with rage. What would he do next? Would the man behind the curtain finally take action? Would Jake and the crowd's music be enough to overpower the darkness looming just beyond their moment? Henry's face twisted in fury, shadows lengthening under the streetlights as he stomped up the few steps to the stage. The crowd went silent, the powerful melody dying down to hushed whispers, like a dying ember hanging on in the night. Jake felt his heart sink for a brief second. What would Henry do? The rage in those eyes was palpable, like a thunderstorm rolling in. With a clenched jaw, Henry raised his hand, signaling for silence. You think this little performance changes anything? He stepped closer, his voice thick with disdain. You're out here playing your little tunes, hoping for change. But you're just voices in the wind, nothing more. The crowd tensed, their hope faltering. But then Jake, rallying his courage, stepped forward with defiance. This music isn't just noise, Henry. It's our truth. It's a call for change, and it's louder than your threats. A murmur of acknowledgement rippled through the audience. Encouraged, Jake turned to them. Are we just going to let him silence us? Are we just going to accept that we don't matter? No. A voice from the back shouted, and another joined in, we matter. It was infectious. The chants grew, creating a swelling tide of defiance that pushed against Henry's icy demeanor. Jake moved back to the piano, fingers poised over the keys, ready to unleash the melody that was brewing in his heart. It felt like a battle cry, a declaration of their humanity. He struck a chord that resonated, sharp and bright, intertwining with the remaining echoes of their hope. And then, something incredible happened. As he began to play, the crowd instinctively stepped forward, the energy in the air shifting. Each note was a sword against despair, and they began to sway, slowly at first, then with increasing fervor. Together, we will rise. Jake's voice rang out again, changed now, tempered by collective strength. No more silence, no more fear. Let the music guide us to a new dawn. The sound enveloped them like a warm embrace, a cocoon of solidarity. Whispers turned into shouts, shouts into a chorus, a beautiful symphony of resilience against the chaos. Laughter mixed with tears of joy as they sang louder, drowning out Henry's indignant protests. But in the back of Jake's mind, a sliver of doubt crept in. Would this be enough? Henry still loomed like a dark cloud, waiting to unleash his storm. Suddenly, Jake noticed Lily pulling at something in her pocket. She revealed a megaphone, the light catching her determination. Let us show him. Let him hear how strong we are. With a determined heart, she handed the megaphone to Jake. He lifted it to his lips, looking out at the crowd. All together now. Let him hear our voices. Let them ring out loud as one. Fight for your dreams. They screamed in unison, the vibration of their breath shaking the cobblestones beneath their feet. The night exploded with their shouts, echoing back at them from the buildings in a chaotic harmony. But just as the surge of unity peaked, Henry's laughter shattered through the melody. You think this changes anything? He scoffed, his voice now laced with desperation. You're nothing without me. Jake's heart raced. He could see the depth of Henry's fear hiding beneath the cocky bravado, the tension that had finally begun to crack. But everyone could feel it, the battle was not over. With a deep breath, Jake whispered to himself, this is the moment. This is our moment. He glanced at the crowd, whose faces mirrored his resolve. What would happen when the final chord struck? Would they be ready for whatever came next? Together, he shouted, igniting the spark one last time. But would it be enough to break Henry's hold and change their fate forever? The crowd surged forward, drawn like moths to a flame. The energy was electric, a living thing. Jake could feel their hopes mingling with his own, a shared dream pulsing through the air. Each note he played seemed to ignite something deep within them, a fire of passion and purpose. He looked into the sea of faces, some determined, others fearful, many uplifted by the moment. But Henry stood unwavering, like a mountain amidst the storm. "You have no idea what you're up against," he shouted again, his voice cutting through the night as he stepped closer, looming over Jake almost menacingly. "You think this is a game? You're playing right into my hands." Jake's heart pounded louder than the music. He knew better, this was not just a distraction, nor merely noise to fill the silence. It was a movement, and movements couldn't be crushed by fear. "Henry!" Jake called out, his voice steady, empowered by the embrace of his friends. "You think you control everything? You don't own this fight. You don't own us. We are more than your puppet show." The crowd roared back in agreement, their voices mixing and rising in a wave that crashed against Henry's anger. "We're not afraid of you," one person shouted, and another yelled, "We choose our own path." For a brief moment, Henry's confidence wavered, just a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. But it was quickly replaced by a mask of fury. "How dare you face me?" he bellowed, his booming voice hinting at rising panic. Jake could see the cracks forming, but it wouldn't be enough unless they pressed on harder together. He raised the megaphone again, his hands shaking slightly with adrenaline. "Let us drown out the darkness with our voices. Let every word we sing be a shield against his gloom. We will not be silenced." They replied, their voices blending into a massive united front, shaking the very foundation of what Henry had built. Jake's fingers danced over the piano keys, creating a melody that swirled with urgency and rebellion. Each chord was a rallying cry, and, for every note, a spark shot through the crowd. They swayed together, not just as an audience but as an army of change. Somewhere in the back of Jake's mind, a flicker of doubt still lingered. Could this truly be enough? Would Henry finally retreat? But in the center of the chaos, Lily's voice broke through. "Look at us. Look at what we can do. We are more than just a crowd. We are a community." Her words resonated, and in that moment, Jake recognized something beautiful. Their collective strength came from the fear they had turned into empowerment. "Together!" Jake shouted once more, his heart swelling as hope blossomed in his chest. "Together!" But just as he thought they had broken through, Henry's laughter echoed again, cold and cruel. "You think this is over? I won't let you win so easily. I have plans, you'll see." That certainty in Henry's voice sent chills through Jake. What plans? They needed to be ready, not just for a battle of voices but for whatever Henry unleashed next. The chorus of their cries began to quiet, the realization dawning on them that the fight was far from finished. With a sudden surge of encouragement from the crowd, Jake felt a newfound intensity rising within him. "Let us not just fight against him, let us fight for us. For our dreams. For our future." But as he raised the megaphone one last time, a shadow moved at the edge of the stage, catching his eye. Something was coming, and it wasn't just the lingering tension from Henry. What unexpected twist awaited them as the night turned darker? Jake squinted into the shadows, his heart racing. He could feel the crowd's energy shift, a collective intake of breath as everyone turned to see what had caught his attention. The atmosphere thickened, anticipation swirling in the air like a storm about to burst. A figure stepped out from behind the curtain, but it wasn't just anyone. It was Maya, their old bandmate. Jake had thought she was gone for good after leaving the city, chasing her dreams far away from them. But here she stood, her presence commanding and vibrant, illuminated by the stage lights. The crowd murmured in surprise, a mixture of relief and excitement rippled through them. Maya. Jake breathed, a rush of joy flooding through him. His fingers faltered on the keys, but only for a heartbeat. You came back. I couldn't let you fight this alone, she shouted, her voice fierce, cutting through the tension. I felt it. What's happening here is too important. You all are too important. Henry's face darkened. What nonsense is this? He blustered, his bravado cracking further. You're just a distraction. You think you can change anything? Maya stepped further into the spotlight, her eyes burning with courage. We've all felt the shadows you've cast. But shadows only exist where there's light. We are united, and our light is stronger than your darkness. The crowd erupted in cheers, their spirits reignited by her return. It was as if every ounce of doubt melted away like ice on a warm day, replaced by a fierce determination to stand strong together. Jake's fingers met the piano keys again, this time with renewed energy. He extended his arm, welcoming Maya to join him on stage. Let us show him what we can do together. He called out, his voice a mix of excitement and challenge. Maya grabbed a microphone, an infectious smile spreading across her face. Let us remind him who we are. Jake played a chord, turning the crowd's rising emotions into music. The notes gathered momentum, lifting everyone's spirits, merging their voices into a magnificent tapestry of sound. They sang as one, a blend of hope and defiance echoing against Henry's dark plans. But amid the music, Jake couldn't shake a feeling of unease. What exactly had Henry meant when he spoke of his plans? With Maya back, they had strength, and strength often attracted more danger. Just then, as the chord swelled into a climactic rhythm, a screech of tires echoed from outside. Everyone turned, confusion mixed with curiosity. Henry's eyes narrowed, an unsettling grin creeping onto his face. Let us see how strong you really are when the time comes. Jake's heart sank. The negativity in Henry's voice was palpable, like a storm cloud hanging ominously overhead. He exchanged glances with Maya, whose expression mirrored his own concern. They needed to be prepared, not just against Henry's looming presence but whatever else he had planned. As the crowd surged forward, fully immersed in the song, Jake felt the power of unity. But beneath it, that dark undercurrent lingered. What awaited them outside, and what would Henry unleash next? Jake knew the fight was amplifying, and they needed to harness the strength they had regained. Would their voices be enough against the unknown? The moment felt fragile, electric. Jake took a deep breath, readying himself for whatever would come next. There was no turning back now. They had to stay united. Suddenly, the tension broke as Henry's voice rose over the crowd. You think this is just about words? Wait until you see what happens next. What would Henry reveal that could shift the tides once again? The tension in the room thickened, the music cascading through the air but now sounding almost distant, muffled by the impending sense of dread. Jake's heart raced as he glimpsed Maya, fierce determination in her eyes. It was a look he remembered from their early days as a band, infused with passion and promise. Henry continued to loom over them, his presence heavy like an unwelcome shadow, a stark contrast to the spirit of the crowd. You're naive to think your little concert will make a difference, he sneered, crossing his arms, a self-satisfied grin spreading across his face. You don't know what I have planned. You might want to head for the nearest exit before it's too late. What are you planning, Henry? Maya shouted, her voice steady but tinged with concern. Is this how you treat people who care about something bigger than yourself? His laugh echoed through the venue, chilling and full of malice. You'll find out soon enough. But why ruin the suspense? Jake felt the energy shift, as if the music momentarily faltered, holding its breath in anticipation. It dawned on him whatever Henry had planned, it was meant to dismantle their unity. They needed to push back, to harness the crowd's energy and transform it into a force of resistance. With a sudden, determined motion, Jake moved to the front of the stage, gesturing for the band to join him. The sound of guitar riffs and beats filled the air, layers of sound melding together, crafting a wall against the encroaching negativity. Together! Jake shouted, striking the keys with renewed fervor. Let us remind ourselves why we're here. Maya stepped beside him, her voice soaring, igniting the crowd's fervor once again. They sang louder, notes weaving through the atmosphere like threads of light cutting through darkness. Jake could feel the rhythm pulsate through his core, an electric connection binding everyone in that room. But just as the harmony approached an exhilarating peak, an unsettling crash came from outside. The crowd instinctively recoiled, fear flashing across their faces. Then the doors slammed open, revealing a chaotic scene just outside. Shadows flitted across the threshold as people shouted and scrambled back. What the? Jake's heart dropped as he tried to grasp what was happening. Maya whipped around, eyes wide. This is what he meant, isn't it? He's not done yet. Jake barely had a moment to consider their next move when the piercing wail of sirens sliced through the music, growing louder and closer with every heartbeat. In that moment, uncertainty loomed over the crowd like a suffocating fog. Stay strong. He called out, trying to rally the crowd despite his own swirling fears. This is when we need each other the most. As the sirens crescendoed, a figure emerged from the chaos, urging people backward, panic in their eyes. Jake couldn't see clearly. He felt his stomach churn. Was this part of Henry's plan? He could feel Maya beside him, her hand on his arm, grounding him. We need to prepare for anything. Let us take this fight outside. The crowd murmured restless encouragement, uncertainty palpable, but there was also an undeniable spark of courage in their eyes. They could not let fear dictate their actions, that wasn't how they did things. Jake's resolve hardened. He turned back to the band, and they exchanged solemn nods. Together they would face whatever disaster awaited. But in the recesses of his mind, Jake felt an inkling of doubt, a whisper blending with the rising chaos. Were they truly ready for what was to come? As the first lights of police vehicles began to flood into the venue, illuminating the stage with a harsh glare, he wondered, what awaited them on the other side of this fight, and would it bring them together or tear them apart? The moment the police lights exploded into the venue, Jake felt the air thicken with confusion and fear. The sirens blared, drowning out the last remnants of music, leaving only the urgent beats of his heart echoing in his ears. Maya's grip tightened around his arm as the crowd surged forward, a mass of uncertainty pushing against the stage. What do we do? She asked, her voice barely a whisper over the chaos. He could see the determination swimming beneath her fear, a reflection of his own swirling thoughts. Jake scanned the faces in the crowd, a mixture of anger and anxiety spreading like wildfire. They were united in that uncertainty, an uneasy gathering of souls hoping for clarity. We need to keep this together, he urged, feeling the galvanizing pulse of determination take root in his chest. We can't let him win. Before he could organize his thoughts, a group of people near the front began chanting, "No fear. No fear." The rest of the crowd hesitated, glancing around, unsure if they should join in. "Come on!" Jake shouted, stepping forward again, this time with more conviction. "Let us drown out that fear. We're here for something bigger." He took a deep breath, the words spilling out like a lifeline. "Sing with me. Let them know we won back down." Maya jumped in, her voice soaring through the venue like a beacon. One by one, faces in the crowd lit up with recognition, with defiance. They began to chant back, the rhythm pulsing through the hall. Jake joined Maya, their voices intertwining, powerful harmonies rising above the tension. But just as they managed to capture a moment of connection, the doors crashed open again, and a group of uniformed officers spilled inside, their faces grim. "Everyone, calm down. We need you to step outside. A commanding voice boomed. People hesitated, fear etched on their faces. Jake could feel the energy shift, a moment teetering between courage and chaos. It would take only one person to crack, to let fear win. He needed to act fast. Listen. He shouted, willing his voice to be steady. We came here because we believe in something that music can bring us together. If we go out there as a crowd, we show them we're not afraid. Maya nodded, her expression fierce. We can't allow them to divide us. We need to stand together. The voices grew, echoing around him. Together. Together. They chanted, the crowd slowly moving toward the exit, a sea of interconnected hearts and minds ready to confront whatever was outside. As they poured into the street, the chill of the evening air hit them like a blast. The police were set up in rigid lines, officers waiting with tense postures. There was a stark feel of confrontation, uncertainty palpable both between them and the officers, and within their own group. Jake stepped forward, squeezing Maya's hand tightly. We can do this, he said, his voice steady despite the anxiety swirling inside him. Together, they faced the line of authority, the weight of their collective courage weighing heavy on their shoulders. What do we want? He called out. Justice. The crowd roared back, stronger than before. With every shout, every chant, Jake felt lifted above uncertainty. It was all or nothing now. They were a community, backed by the power of their music and their fight. But what would happen next? What if this standoff turned violent, and everything they believed in came crashing down? Just then, from the fringes of the crowd, a flicker caught his eye. A shadowing figure with an all-too-familiar face was watching intently, lips curling into an unsettling smile. Jake's heart sank as recognition hit him. Why was Henry there? What did he want now? The standoff felt electric, every heartbeat echoing through the frozen air. The crowd stood shoulder to shoulder, a mosaic of bravery and fear, but Jake could see them drawing strength from one another. They wouldn't let Henry's darkness engulf them, not now, not ever. Stay together. Jake shouted again, his voice rising above the din of uncertainty. He knew this was a moment they couldn't squander. With Maya beside him, they were ready to lead. What do we believe in? Faith in our community. The crowd roared back, a wave of sound that pushed against the officers' rigid lines. There was something extraordinary about that moment. It wasn't just a protest, it was their collective heart, pounding to life, shattering the silence that had smothered their town for too long. But as Jake took a deep breath, a chill crept down his spine. Henry stood just a few feet away, his smug smile twisting into something far more sinister. He was feeding off their fear, savoring the chaos he had orchestrated. Jake felt a fire kindle inside him, stronger than any doubt. Look at him. He bellowed, pointing straight at Henry. He thrives on our fear. Don't give him that power. Remember why we're here. What do we want? The crowd echoed, their collective voice lifting like a bird breaking free from its cage. Change. They chanted back. Today, we stand together. This is our town. We won't let anyone take it from us. Jake's words hung vibrantly in the air, a declaration that rippled through the crowd, solidifying their resolve. But before he could gather his next thought, Henry's voice cut through. This won't last. You're nothing but a bunch of dreamers clinging to a fantasy. His laughter rang out, empty and cold, but Jake noticed the growing unease in his eyes. Maybe they were getting to him. Not a fantasy, Henry, Maya replied, stepping forward, her fiery spirit ablaze. It's called hope, something you wouldn't understand. You think you can buy what we have? You're mistaken. The crowd snapped to attention, empowered by her words. Things were shifting, a pulse of unity rippling through everyone present. They weren't just fighting for themselves anymore, they were fighting for each other, for the spirit of their community, past and present. Suddenly, amidst the clamor, a child's voice rang out. "You can't take our town." It was Lily, standing tall with her colorful banner, her brave little face lit up with hope brighter than the moon. "My daddy is the best, and we want to let you win." That simple declaration poured into the chest of every adult around her, filling them with warmth and courage. If a child could stand against such odds, how could they not? Voices swelled around the square, echoing Lily's conviction, drowning out Henry's sneering facade. "You think we're afraid of you?" Someone shouted, face alight with defiance. "Fight with us, not against us." "Yes," Jake cried out. "He wants us divided, but we'll stand united." The police officers shifted. Jake could see the hesitation, their strict orders clashing with the humanity bubbling up within the ranks. They were people too, caught between their duty and the undeniable truth of the moment. As chants continued to rise and swell, the air thickened with anticipation. Jake felt it. There was power in their voices, a swelling tide of unity that couldn't be ignored or drowned out. Then, just as Henry was about to retort, the unexpected happened. One of the police officers stepped forward, removing his cap. "I came from this town," he said, voice steady, a note of empathy piercing the tension. "I know what you're fighting for. And I choose to stand with you." Gasps rippled through the crowd, first disbelief, then elation. More officers exchanged glances, confusion flickering before realization dawned. This was about empowerment, not control. Robust murmurs began spreading like wildfire amongst the ranks, officers stepping forward one by one, standing shoulder to shoulder with the community. It was all unfolding, the shift, the change, and it was incredible. Henry's expression morphed from arrogance to bewilderment as he began to understand the tide turning against him. "This is chaos," he hissed, rage swimming in his gaze. "You'll regret this." But Jake met his glare head-on, heart racing, fueled by hopes of a different tomorrow. "No, Henry. We're done living in fear. We're done being silenced. You may think you have power, but our strength comes from one another." With that, Jake lifted the megaphone high, representing every dreamer, every fighter, and every believer in their shared dreams. "Are you with us?" he shouted, his voice booming through the air like an urgent drumbeat. "Yes." The crowd thundered back, a perfect swell of unity that vibrated through Jake's bones. But amidst that force, they didn't yet see just how far Henry would go to regain control. Would he take a last stand? Jake could only hope that this time, the community's voices and love would triumph over greed. "Together!" they shouted, the word reverberating through the chilled night. "Together!" With every chant, every unified heartbeat, the shift was undeniable. It was the start of change, a reclamation of their lives, their rights, and their community. As the remaining glimmer of Henry's power flickered, Jake could finally feel something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. This was their moment, the start of something beautiful and unbreakable. Would they succeed in taking a stand against Henry's final move? Would this melody of defiance ring out for generations to come? And as the chorus of voices surged into the night, Jake understood one truth: they held the power of their own stories and futures, and together, they would create a tune of triumph that would echo through their town forever. Now was the time for them to rise, stronger than the shadows. In that moment, a deep certainty settled within Jake's soul. They would not falter. The tides of fate shifted in their favor, and it was a beautiful, unstoppable force. Today marked the beginning of change, and no one, not even Henry, could take that away from them. So subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it makes a world of difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to support our channel and be part of this amazing journey.